Hey, hello, and welcome everybody to today's workshop. I know this is not the normal time that we start, but I do have an event I'm going to today. As you can tell by my fancy shirt here, I got the shirt in Peru. I'm going to a cultural festival thing this weekend, so I wanted to hop on early, still do our workshop, but unfortunately I didn't have the time to announce it and do it ahead of time. So hopefully you're not too angry at me and that you can catch this at a later time. Today we're going to be talking about beginning your retirement calculations using a free online calculator that I think is pretty good. It's a good place to start. We need to get more detail. I'm going to talk about that as well. But I really think starting with some initial projections is a great way to see how close you are on track to your retirement goal. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. We're just going to jump right in today. And if you see this at a later time, because I know I didn't announce this, and you watch it later and you have a question, just put it in the comments. I'll be happy to go in and answer that for you later. And again, I do apologize for the random time I'm jumping on. So I'm just going to jump in today's workshop. Oh, I should introduce myself. My name is Jason Hamilton. I am a certified financial planner with Keep It Simple Financial Planning. And every Sunday, usually at 2 p.m. Pacific time, but this week I'm going to do early, we're going to bring you a workshop to help you build and grow your retirement knowledge so that you can retire with confidence. So that's my ultimate goal, is to help you retire with confidence. And every day I'm going to bring you a little piece of knowledge to help you. I shouldn't say every day, every week. I'm going to bring you a little piece of knowledge to help you do that. So today we're going to use a financial calculator I think is pretty good. It's not everything you need, but I think it's a great place to start when it comes to mapping out your financial projections. So I'm going to share this with you in just a moment. Before I do need to go over some quick disclosures here because I am regulated, right? So I do run my firm here, which is Keep It Simple Financial Planning, so I do have regulations I have to follow. So this disclaimer here is meant to share with you that everything that we talk about today is meant to be for informational purposes. It's not meant to be specific advice for you. This is not all the answers that you need, but it's going to be some good information to help you get started. So I just wanted to share this with you before we jump in. Okay, so what we're going to use today is Vanguard's retirement calculator. So I think it's pretty good. So if you just type in Vanguard Retirement Calculator into Google, it'll come up here. And so it's a good place to start. So if you just click on this, it'll pull it up. And again, this is free to use. Should be pretty straightforward. And I actually really like how easy it is to use. And it gives you some pretty good info to get started. So really, what you'll do is just start plugging in your information. So if you've already completed the last 2 workshops and you have your budget already for retirement and you know how much you need to really be comfortable, and you have done your financial inventory or your net worth statement to see how much in assets that you have, then those are the 2 foundational pieces that you will need for this workshop. There's one more thing that I think you should add, and that's to get your Social Security benefit. So if you go to ssa.gov, and you can go there and get your estimated benefit. So we're going to use that as well. So you might want to gather that before you go to try this, just to make it a little bit easier, okay? So what we'll do here is just really use these little sliders. I think this tool is really great and very easy to use. So where you're going to start here is where it says, you're X years old. So we're going to move this up. Most people that we're working with here are somewhere in this range, right? So let's say you're, 58 years old, 59, 61, whatever it may be. We'll just leave it at 60. And let's say you want to retire at 63, for example, okay? Then you're going to go to the next slider here, and you're going to move up, wherever your income is, okay? So we're going to mess with this in a second, but let's say your income is $75,000. Let's just use that for an example. Okay, and then the next tab is going to be how much you're currently saving annually for retirement. So you want to include any matches that you get here in your 401k and just all retirement saving in general. So if you're contributing to a 401k and a Roth IRA, you may need to do a little bit of math because this works on the percentage generally. I mean, you can also put the dollar amount, but you can put in, that you're saving, let's say, 15% of your salary. So that have that here. And in this case, that would be $11,000. So either way, whatever's easiest for you. If you're maxing out, let's say your Roth IRA and you're over 50 years old and you can put in $7,000 per year, then you put that $7,000 and then you would put in the amounts that you're putting into your 401k. So you want to make sure that this is accurate here and that it's all saved up. And then the next slider here, this is for how much you have saved for retirement so far. So we're just going to use middle of the road number. I know a lot of people are, no matter what I put, people get mad. It's like, how can some people are saying, I wish I had $5,000, that'd be wonderful. And then some people say, how am I going to survive off $500,000, right? So I just want to remind you that everybody's situation is unique. And please, please, please don't use anything I put here as any sort of judgment. This is just an example. So you're going to put in your own numbers here, okay? And then they have this next slider, which I think is interesting, which is set at 85%. There's been many conversations about this recently. And in all honesty, some people can't live off 100% of what they're making pre-retirement. And some people can live off 50, right? So you just want to, don't worry about that too much. What I want you to see here is look at this little slider of what you'll need, okay? And then based on your budget that you did a couple weeks ago, you want to move this to match that, okay? So if you're making $75,000 and you'll now need like $4,000, for example, to live, which is, I think, is pretty reasonable for most people, then in this case, you'll need 64%. So don't worry too much about percentage of income. This is why I taught you to do it the way that I did, because I want you to start with what you'll actually need, and then whatever that percentage is, it doesn't really matter. That shouldn't be something you compare to anybody else. This should be what you personally need. So you want to match that up, and let's say in this case we need $4,000 per month to live off of. Okay, so what this is giving you is that you may have $1,880 coming from your retirement plan, based on a 5% annual return, which I think is moderately reasonable depending on your risk level in retirement. And then what you want to look at here is some people say not to include your Social Security benefit in retirement and just call that gravy on the biscuit or something. I think that's a horrible way to do it, because that's going to stress a lot of people out. I really think you should include your Social Security benefit. I don't think there's a lot to worry about in the long term of it going away. Maybe 2034 you see a decrease, but I really don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to fix that before, because there is a huge population in this country that their only income source is Social Security. So can you imagine if people lost 20% of their only income source and they were like 70 or 75 years old? I mean, we're talking absolute chaos. I just really, really don't see that happening on the long term. I see more so that they're going to raise taxes or increase the full retirement age, different things like that. So I do think you should include your Social Security benefit as a foundational part of your income, okay? And then when it comes to that, you really want to look at optimize your Social Security. And we're going to do more workshops on this, by the way. I'm just trying to show you this calculator so you can get started. And the following weeks, we're going to dig into more of these subjects in much more depth. But you should look at your Social Security income, and when you time it, as a replacement of a certain percentage of your income. So let's say at 62 versus 67, you can actually replace maybe another 10 or 15% of your income need. Then delaying somewhere in the middle might make sense versus taking it at 62. Obviously, I know some people have no choice but to take it at 62, and that's okay. But if you're talking about delaying, I wouldn't really consider too much about your break-even day, because people worry about that. I look at more about how much of your income floor, like, so if this is a 0, how much of your baseline income can you replace by Social Security, and then from here to here, how much do you need to replace from your assets? Because the smaller amount you need to replace from your assets, the more secure your retirement plan is. And obviously, if you have, from 0, you have your Social Security, and if you can add a little pension on there and then replace a smaller amount, that's great too. But most people don't have pensions unless you're in the government or teaching fields, which, again, we deal with that a lot. But the majority of people are not having pensions these days, is what it seems like. So this little box here, you can click on to include your Social Security benefit, okay? So you click on here to include your Social Security benefit, and then you can say, tell us about it. And then here, what you want to look at, there's a little link here to Social Security site, and there's another calculator here. But what you want to look at is what you expect your Social Security benefit to be when you're thinking about taking it. And you can play around with this, right? You can play around with this and do some different things. But let's just say you had an expected benefit of $2,000, just to make it easy. Okay. And so in this case, it looks like we're going to be a little bit short, right? It looks like we're going to be a little bit short of a retirement need, because if we need $4,000 a month here, and what we may have is $3,880, then this is what we call back of the napkin. Okay, this is just a general place to start. I don't think this means a whole lot, because saying I'm going to get a 5% annual return I don't think this is really a good way to map out for retirement. I think you need to get a lot more specific, and I'm going to show you an example in just a moment. But let's look at the reality. You know, stock market returns are not consistent. So some years, like this year so far, you may have 17%. Last year, you may have lost, 8%, for example, by the end of December. So when you average that out, you're probably somewhere in the middle, right? You might have an 8% average return over the last, whatever it may be, 24 months or something like that. But it's not consistent. So these calculators, this is where they kind of fall apart for me. But the whole point of me showing you this today is because I want to help you get started to see, how close you are and give you some ideas on, what I think is a relatively good calculator and really easy to use. I think that's a big thing. That's really easy to use. So if you look here, right now we have the person is 60 years old, looking to retire at 63. Well, okay, here we're coming up a little short. Well, it's like, well, what if we updated to 64? Well, now we're getting a whole lot closer, right? So this looks a whole lot closer than to where we need to be. And if we go to 65, okay, now you're beating that. Okay, so we can also play with other variables here, like, well, what if we expect an average, 6% return, and we want to retire at 64? So do you see how there's so many little variables and inputs, right? So all these little different things can make a big difference to your retirement plan. But I think this is a good place to start to say, hey, am I on track? Am I off track? Maybe you only have, let's say you only have 250,000 saved, for example. Well, now we're going to have a bigger gap here. So we really need to be thinking about our Social Security benefit here. Can we increase that? What if we can increase that to, I don't know, let's say 2,300, for example. That helps us get a little closer. And what if we can retire, let's say, a year or two later? These things all come into play when you're looking at an overall retirement plan. But what I'm trying to do here is give you a resource that I think is pretty good that gives you some ideas on how to map in things. And of course, if you have a pension, you can include that. And then they have it, I guess, as a percentage of salary here, which is okay. And a lot of people do that. They'll get like, 30% of salary or something like that. And that could be really great for some people. But the majority of people don't have a pension. So I hope this was helpful for you as a place to start. I do want to show you and give you a preview because we're going to be talking about this when we get to retirement income planning. I want to give you a preview of something that I think will give you a better insight of how we like to think about mapping out your retirement plan. So let me stop my share on this really quickly, and then let me see if I can pull this up somewhere else. You know what? I'm going to have to do it another training. So I'm just going to wrap up this training for today. So I hope you found this useful, and what we're trying to do here is just help you build piece by piece to put together your retirement plan and just to give you some insight and some great tools that I think will be helpful for you. If you're somebody that doesn't really want to mess around with this, you just want some professional guidance, you want someone to help you put this whole package together, then we do have complimentary consultations available, and we can talk about that. If you want to go to my site, you can go to keepitsimplefinancial.com/talk, and there you'll find my calendar link where we offer usually 45 to 60 minutes, but we'll spend that amount of time helping you get really crystal clear clarity on your retirement plan, what you really need to do, where the main opportunities are for you, and what you should be thinking about. So we do this at no cost to you. It's complimentary, and it really is going to help you get a lot of information, I think. And if you want our help working your plan and getting that put together, we can talk about that. But if you just want to meet up, chat, and see where you're at, that's okay too. There's no cost to this, no obligation. So that's what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you're seeing this at a later time and you have questions, leave a comment. No problem at all. I appreciate you guys. Have a great afternoon, and we'll be talking to you very soon. Bye-bye now.